the President of the Association of African Universities, Professor Bakri Said Osman, and all the AAU governing board members, past and present, vice chancellors, presidents, rectors, pro-vice chancellors, and other institutional heads gathered here and connected online, distinguished IT professionals, students from higher education institutions, invited guests, eminent participants, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to today's event. Today's event is the Universal Acceptance Day celebrations. For those who don't know, the Universal Acceptance Day celebrations provides an opportunity to rally local, regional, and global communities and organizations to spread universal acceptance awareness and to encourage universal acceptance adoption with key stakeholders. For more information, the Universal Acceptance, which is the UA, ensures that all valid domain names, including long new top-level domains like .org, .net, and .com, .info, which are parts of URLs and email addresses, can be used by all internet-enabled applications, devices, and systems, regardless of script, language, or character length. The Universal Acceptance also supports the ability for email mailbox names to be used or use characters in local languages and scripts through email address internalization EIA standards. Thank you all for joining us today. I'll take you through the program for the day, but before that, kindly note that the event is jointly organized by the Association of African Universities and ICANN. ICANN is Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So we'll take a speech by Ms. Nodumot Lamini, who will be doing this on behalf of the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, Prof. Olushola Bandele Oyewole. And then we'll have some promotional videos and presentation by Suleiman Abdulmanaf, who is an IT technical assistant here at the AAU. And then we'll have the Universal Acceptance Awareness and Technical Overview presentation by Mr. Abednego Quality, who is a senior IT officer at the AAU. We'll take a few Q&A. We'll have a few Q&A sessions, and then also closing remarks by Mr. Abednego Quality. So allow me the honors to introduce to you Ms. Nodumot Lamini to give more details or more of her title. Ms. Nodumot Lamini is the Director of ICT Services, Communications and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. She has over 28 years working experience in the secondary school education, banking, railway transport, higher education, and tertiary agricultural education. She has worked in Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and now in Ghana with the AAU. She's led various projects at African University, Zimbabwe, from 1999 to 2008. She's also led ICT and communications implementation for from between 2009 and 2015. She has experience in strategic leadership, management, and administration. And as I said earlier, at the AAU, she runs continental capacity building programs for e-learning development, innovations in teaching, research, communications, and developing digital systems. She has passion about African universities. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Ms. Nodumot Lamini onto the platform to give us a speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Naomi. So I'm making this presentation on behalf of Professor Olushola Oyewole, who couldn't be with us today because of other pressing business. So I bring you warm greetings from the Association of African Universities. I welcome you, our stakeholders who have been able to attend this event virtually and in person. This is one of the many activities that we as the association have lined up to closely engage our member institutions and various stakeholders. We are therefore extremely grateful for the support that we continue to receive from all of you. The Association of African Universities was conceived in Sudan around 1963, but was eventually born on 12 November 1967. The first members of this association comprised 34 universities from across the continent. Vice chancellors came together and they decided that they want to establish this association so that they could collaborate amongst each other. The whole idea was that they would leverage the strengths and the capacities that are resident in different institutions. So our vision as the association is to be the lead advocate for higher education on the continent with the capacity to provide support for our member institutions to meet their national, continental, and global needs. And we do this grand work by enhancing the quality and relevance of higher education in Africa and strengthening its contribution to Africa's development. Our current strategic priorities focus on establishing a favorable policy environment for higher education. We actually lobby governments, development partners, and all concerned stakeholders to support higher education. We bring out issues that hinder the success of higher education. We also strengthen institutional capacities of our stakeholders, of our universities, through training and events such as this. We promote harmonization, standardization for competitiveness of higher education and for higher education to be able to collaborate among each other. We resource mobilize for African universities and also for the programs that we implement with African universities. Over the years, we've had various successes in implementing a number of programs covering academic staff exchanges to promote collaboration, enriching teaching and learning experiences, mobilizing regional capacities through our various programs, and working to make research from higher education institutions more relevant to industry through university industry linkages programs. Those that follow our websites and social media might remember that in December 2022, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, which we call ICANN, together with AAU and several partners, launched the Coalition for Digital Africa during the Internet Governance Forum in Addis Ababa in December 2022. The theme for that Internet Governance Forum was connecting all people and safeguarding human rights. So this alliance brings like-minded institutions that are committed to building a robust and secure internet infrastructure to bring more Africans online. Therefore, today, in line with our partnership with ICANN, we are participating in the Universal Acceptance Day celebrations, which are being hosted all over the world by various organizations. As Naomi mentioned, universal acceptance basically allows users to access internet in their chosen languages and scripts. So if you still don't understand what we are talking about, at least go away with that understanding. We want to be able to use our own languages. If our own languages have a different scripts, than the A, B, C, D. We want to be able to use those to also access internet. Finally, I would like to emphasize that as an association, we are keen that our universities, our computer science and IT departments, our computer science and IT students understand some of these emerging issues concerning accessibility to internet, so that our continent does not remain behind. And I think for the young people also, it's important to understand where the world is going in terms of internet connectivity, what are the challenges, and what your research maybe could focus on, and where you could brand yourself as an expert so that you are employed. Because these days it's about knowing what's happening in industry. So I'm very happy to see a number of students here today, because they are going to be the champions of some of the things that we will be talking about today. So on behalf of Professor Olushola Oyewole, I welcome you to participate in today's program by engaging, by learning, and by asking questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nudmo Dlamini. For those who just joined, Ms. Nudmo Dlamini is the Director of ICT, Communication Service and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities here in Accra, Ghana. Next on the agenda is a promotional video by Suleiman Abdulmanaf. He is an IT technical assistant here, and he is supporting the ICANN project.
To reach another person on the internet, you type an address into your device, a name or a number. That address must be unique so computers know where to find each other. ICANN maintains and administers these unique identifiers across the world. Without ICANN's management of this system, the domain name system, or DNS as it's known, we wouldn't have a global, scalable internet where we can find each other. Within ICANN's multi-stakeholder international organizations, governments, research, academic and technical communities are all represented. ICANN's community-driven policy. To keep pace with dynamic technologies and rapid innovation, ICANN enables consensus-driven, multi-stakeholder policy development with broad representation from the global internet community. Competition and choice. From accrediting over 1,000 registrars to introducing new top-level domains, ICANN works to expand consumer choice by fostering competition and innovation in the domain name marketplace. Which functions does ICANN coordinate? The domain name system, Internet Protocol Address Allocation, the Protocol Parameter Registry, root server systems, generic top-level domain name system management, country code top-level domain name DNS, and time zone database management. Security and stability. ICANN supports DNS security through technical training and engagement, coordinating and collaborating with the community in the implementation of standards such as DNSSEC. Interoperability. ICANN's work enables new technologies to flourish while maintaining interoperability across the global internet. For example, management of the unique protocol identifiers allows communication using secure connections between users. Contractual compliance. ICANN oversees the contracts it maintains and enforces consensus policies developed through the community-driven process. ICANN's contractual compliance function seeks to ensure compliance with the agreements and the consensus policies. Who's involved? A number of groups. each of which represents a different interest on the internet. All of them come together with the board of directors. The supporting organizations on addressing, country code names, and generic names. The advisory committees, at large, governmental, the root server system, security and stability. And the technical advisory bodies, the technical liaison group, and the Internet Engineering Task Force. How do I participate? Sign up for updates at myicann.org. Join one of the many public comment forums on ICANN's website. Attend ICANN's public meetings in person or online to provide input at a public forum. Or join one of ICANN's supporting organizations or advisory committees.
The ability to fully communicate in your language and script is important, regardless of the medium. Many people around the world cannot experience the full benefits of the internet in their own language simply because they're unable to use a domain name or email address in their language and script of choice. This challenge can be solved. Universal acceptance ensures that all domain names and email addresses work in all software applications for today's internet users, and the next billion that will be coming online in the coming years. ICANN.org and the ICANN community are committed to working with key stakeholders around the world to achieve universal acceptance. We hope you can join us. These are exciting times.
If you're a business leader, you should claim first-mover advantage by updating your systems to be universal acceptance ready. Universal acceptance allows your customers anywhere around the world to use domain names or email addresses in their own native language or script. As more people come online from all corners of the globe, businesses that support internationalized domain names and email addresses can tap into unmet demand and capture new revenue streams from global customers. Is your business UA ready?
Universal acceptance is a priority for ICANN, not just in promoting awareness around the world and in the DNS industry, but internally as an organization. ICANN.org's engineering and IT team has been working to make our own internal systems and applications UA and EAI ready. We've updated many of our systems to accept, validate, process, store, and display non-ASCII characters and long and short TLDs and IDNs. We're currently working closely with our email security vendor to test and ensure that ICANN will be able to support EAI in the near future. By working to make our systems UA ready, ICANN.org is looking to set an example and provide insight to help other organizations achieve UA readiness. Learn how you can too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suleimana Abdulmanaf, for the promotional videos. Basically, what the video was talking about was just laying emphasis on the need for universal acceptance, which is basically supporting the ability for mailbox names to use characters in their local languages and scripts through the email address internalization standard. Moving on, I would like to welcome Mr. Abednego Quality, who is a senior IT officer at the AAU, to give us a presentation on the universal acceptance awareness and technical overview. Mr. Abednego Quality is a senior IT officer at the AAU Is also the Research and Education Network Unit Officer and also a Project Officer at the Knowledge Management Department. He is a former systems analyst with KNUST and has over 30 years experience in academic space. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Abednego Qualite to do his presentation. Thank you.
I want us to do an experiment. I want you to open a browser, okay? Whether Chrome, Edge, whichever browser you have, and type in these numbers. I want you to type in some numbers. So type in your browser 102.220, 102.220.223.26 and hit or click enter. And then I want to be told what you get. What did you get? The page is not working. 102.220.223.26. The page is not working. The what? So he said he gets to where? Association of African Universities. But what is that link up there? What does it say? It's https:// okay, those ones wouldn't come, but it says aau.org. Okay, so aau.org and all the long numbers that are rattled, which one is easier for you to remember? So when we say ICANN and we say Internet Corporation for assigned names, the assigned name is the aau.org. The assigned numbers is the 220.102.102.220. But you see, it's difficult for humans to remember. So if you have 10 size, you go to tonaton.org or .com, you go to eugene.edu.gh. It's simple, you remember those things. But if you have to keep all the names or the numbers of each site in your head, I guess you start going mad and start running around mentioning numbers. When they ask you your name, you start mentioning numbers. When they ask you where do you come from, you start mentioning numbers. So that is all that we are going to talk about today. Okay. I can connect the numbers to the names so that you can be found on the internet. The computer only notes zeros and ones. I guess most of you understand, IT students, you understand what I mean by that. Computer only understands zeros and ones. And so the aau.org would have to be a translation of zeros and ones, and the computer will be able to understand and point you out. So just like the post office does, when you send a letter to somebody, you write the address, the post office would sort out, this letter is going to Ghana, this one is going to Nigeria, this one is going to Zimbabwe, this one is going to South Africa, Ethiopia here. They sort out. Then when they get into the country, this one is going to Accra, this is going to Kumasi, this is going to Tamale. And it gets to Accra, they sort further. This one is going to Kaneshi, this one is going to Legon, this one to Awushi or wherever. So you see how this is sorted out manually by the postal service. On the internet, there needs to be something like that that will help identify sites, and systems will be able to send information. So that when I send information, I send an email to somebody, the email will have to filter to the domain. So my email address would contain aau.org, something at aau.org, or something at yahoo.com or yahoo.fr or yahoo.whatever, or Gmail at gmail.something. So at Gmail, that is the domain. Gmail is the top level domain. It's a domain. And then the .com is the top level domain we are going to be talking about. So you hear .com, .org, .net, all the dots. Okay. So Madam's message that says that we should be able to communicate on the internet irrespective of which language you are using. That should be the message that you should take from here, at least if you don't remember anything at all. So my colleague would normally say tonaton.org.com. Tonaton is .com. Tonaton.com. Those who understand tree or who knows the tree scripts, Tonaton, ton is not O-N. It's T or the tree language there, or, but we don't type O on the internet. So we are forced to use O.com. So UA basically is asking that you should be able to use or and let it be still acceptable, and the system would interpret and send it to the direct site. Okay, now let us use another example. The Arabic language, how does it go? So when you write a site name in Arabic, should it be able to accept and interpret it so that the person is also able to land at AAU.org? That is a challenge. What about the Chinese language? What about Japanese? And there are a lot of other languages. Okay, so what we are saying basically is that whichever script you use, whichever way it goes, whether it is up to down, down, up, back, forward, reverse, backwards, whichever way, that must be acceptable within your systems. The systems must be able to interpret that and allow people who are using that language to come in and use your resources, or for you to be able to communicate with them. So ICANN is going beyond just numbers and names. Okay, the AAU.org that we all know because it is in English. We have learned from our kindergarten days to now to understand the alphabets that we know. What about somebody who grew up in China and doesn't understand the English language? How are we able to communicate? How would the person be able to get to google.com to search for information? You understand what I'm talking about? So basically, that's our conversation. And there are a lot of benefits that come out from doing that. So the Internet Corporation for Assigned Name or Numbers are taking the lead in doing that with AAU. And we are going to be discussing some of the things that we can get from them. So there's many people around the world are unable to experience the benefits from the internet. Why? Because of this that we just explained. So somebody who does not understand English language but can speak the Gan language, or somebody who can only speak the Ever language or Akan language, how would a person be able to now communicate on the internet? Be able to search for information? Because the scripts that the person understands are not available online. So when the person goes online and wants to, he hears Tonaton, as for Tonaton, I can spell it tree. So he tries to spell, but the system will not send the person anywhere. Get the point? Because it is not universally compliant. So along the line, I would want you to check with your email addresses for the institutions. I don't want yahoo.com and I don't want gmail.com or Hotmail. For those of us here who have institutional emails like something at gimpa.edu.gh, something at atu.edu.gh. I want those who have institutional emails to try it out along the line. I'll give you the site, and then we'll see how your systems are compliant or otherwise. So they are unable to get the full benefits simply because they are unable to use the domain name or email addresses of choice in their language and scripts. I've just spoken about that, in their language and scripts. So they are unable to access the full benefits that they can derive from the internet. But through universal acceptance, all those who develop, provide, or manage online websites and other applications within the institutions would have that opportunity now to do that so that others around the globe can equally benefit from the use of the internet. So we are going to see how we can learn about UA, why it matters to us, and how we can collectively promote it. Collectively, because you see, I told you that you have like poles are sitting together. When you go out, please don't do that. I want you to go out there and become advocates of this one. So when you go out and as you develop your career, if you are still in the IT industry, even if you are not in the IT industry, wherever you go, if you are in a business, make sure your business is complying with the setups you have. Because if you do that, you know the benefits are plenty. It means that everybody else around the globe who does not speak your language will still get to know the service that you have, you are providing. And that would be a major boost for you. Because in the competitive world, if your competitor is not able to reach out to people who don't speak their language, and you are able to do that, you see the advantage you have. It is easier for them to come to you because they can get the things they want, they can get the information in their own language, and they can understand whatever you are putting on your site. So that's one reason why beyond here, you want to see how you can pursue this issue of helping institutions and systems become universal acceptance compliant. Okay. I used to think that English language was the most spoken language in the world. But you see the interesting statistics. Who speak that language? Yeah, the Chinese. So the language is the most spoken language in the world. How many of us speak Chinese? Oh, okay, good. At least we have 2 people here. So if a Chinese man gets here, we'll be able to communicate with that person. But you see how important it is then now. If you want to reach out, you have a company that wants to reach out globally. English is just the third. English is just the third. The third most spoken language. Even Spanish is ahead of English. So if your systems are universal acceptance compliant, it means that you can reach out to all these other people in all the other languages. And the others that we can't even talk about. The others, all these who are here, 43%. In Ghana, how many languages do we have? About 30 acceptable, or recognize, not acceptable, I recognize one. Recognize about 30. Eh? In Nigeria, they say they have over 100 languages. But that should not be a reason why they cannot access the internet. You understand now? That should not be a reason why you cannot access the internet or get information from the internet, or a reason why people cannot use your systems. So these are things we need to think about. And the reason why it is even more urgent now that we begin to build systems that are UA compliant. Okay, for the students especially. For the lecturers, we are thinking about how you can incorporate this into your course structures. So that students who are doing IT, and especially those who are interested in networking, would have that knowledge by the time they leave school. So it's one of the things we are doing. So this is just the launch of the UA Day. Beyond this, in about 2 weeks from now, just after Easter, we are going to run a workshop. And we want to bring in people from the institutions, come and understand what we want them to do to make their systems compliant. So when it is time, we would want to see those who are really interested in pursuing this. We would want you to come for this workshop. Okay, for the institutions whose systems are still non-compliant. And for those who are thinking to do that very soon, because we want to have some impact and make your systems very compliant. Okay, so some of them I don't want to talk too much about. That is the usage of the internet and how people are able to access the internet. You see where we are. We are always defending our title. We are always seriously defending our title. It's not us, you always see. But small, then you get there. Small, you get there. Okay. So a domain name, I just tried to explain earlier on. So you see, if you want to go to Wikipedia, we did that experiment. You can type wikipedia.org and you get here. Or if you like to keep numbers, if you are a fan of numbers, you can keep this number in your head and you can always get there. So that is the assigned number, that is the assigned name. Okay, so that is their domain name. So anything that does not come from Wikipedia, if they presume to be something else, then they write probably wikipedia.something.org. Then you have to begin to become suspicious. Okay. My domain is aau.org. That's for the office. That's for the institution. So if somebody sends you something and says at something.aau.org, immediately it comes after the at, and it's not aau.org. You should be suspicious. You get my point? The domain name helps you identify mails, for instance, that are scam. Okay, it helps you to know, for instance, if somebody sends you a mail, if you are using Yahoo and somebody sends you a mail and it is not helpdesk@yahoo.com, for instance, but it's something else with some long names before the yahoo.com, you should begin to become suspicious. Okay, it is very normal for it to be suspicious. So knowing how the domain names function is also very crucial. The domain names and IP addresses help us navigate the internet. I think I explained that. So your IP address is like your PO box, or if you go to the telephone directory, it's like your phone number that is listed in the telephone directory. So when somebody mentions your number, +233 plus the other ones, it is unique to you. So anybody else around the world can punch that number, but it always gets back to you. That is using the numbers. But in a telephone directory, your name would be the one that's appearing there. So that is how the systems work. So the domain names and the IP addresses, you know what IP addresses are. The Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers helps coordinate these two together and makes navigation of the internet very easy for everyone. The numbers, the names, put them together and ensure a stable, secure, and a unified global network. So that is what ICANN does. And now, like Madam said, we are working with them to ensure that people are able to understand this as AAU members, institutions, and to implement, not just understand, implement, learn and implement them in their teaching, in their work that they do. So that when they leave school, they are knowledgeable enough to implement such systems wherever they work. So these are the way it's just a breakdown of how the systems work. We have the protocols. This one tells us that the site is secured, HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol in a secure way. Then the label, the www or whatever, then this is the label. Now we see the .org. We have labeled it as JTLD, top level domain, but it is generic for organizations. You can have .net. It is generic for organizations that are networks. You can have it for corporations that we have, or companies that we have the .com. So the G there means generic. For educational institutions, we normally will have EDU for Africa or AC, academic. So you understand that it is an educational institution. Then we have country code. Ghana, we have .gh. In Nigeria will be .ng. These are the top level domains that we are talking about. It should be able to be identified by whichever script you are using to be able to reach them. So if somebody in Egypt wants to come to search, I'm trying to advance sometimes, do a search for people in Ghana and wants to use a code that should come to Ghana and work within the country, the person will be looking at the G.gh code, that's the country code. And the person is using either Arabic, Spanish, or whatever scripts, the person should still be able to get to Ghana. All right. So this is the domain name, but they also are helping us to streamline the way email addresses are also working. So you have the IDN and you have the EAI. The EAI is email address internationalization. So we have mailbox user at example dot. You see the final part. The final part of the email address. You see, it's not in English. The final part of the email address. So if you look at my name at AAU dot instead of org, you see it's a different script. Okay. Because it's a different script, that didn't mean that I should not be able to get to this person with the email address. You should be able to get to that person. So that's one of the reasons why we are saying that our systems must begin to accept every other script that is available and acceptable online. The Unicode transformational format, UTF, allows this to happen. I don't want to be using a lot of technical terms. Although you are IT guys, I want us to be as simple as possible. So sometimes I will go very low. I will not mention certain. So we have user at, so my name, equality at aau.org. But if we are compliant, UA compliant, I can, instead of typing origin, I can go and look for a Chinese or a Japanese way of writing origin and put there. The system should still be able to get to me if I send a mail to myself. So you can do that and see if your system is able to do that. Then it is UA compliant. If it's not, then there must be something that you need to do about your system. Okay, so for those students who are here, that's an assignment I'm giving you. There are spaces here. There are spaces also that side. If you sit here, I might be blocking you, so I think you will sit to that side. Okay. You get my point? So the students here, it's a challenge I'm throwing to you. When you go back, please, let's see how your system works. If it's not working, there are things you can do. So when it's time for the workshop, come and learn. It's also free to attend. The workshop is free to attend. Nobody is going to be charged for anything. But help your institution, even before you leave the institution, help the institution to become UA compliant. Are you getting along with me? If there are questions, please let's know. You are going to go slow. It's supposed to be a conversation. Okay. So that is that. So for the ICANN, they are doing the IDN for domain names, internationalization of domain names, and they are doing email address internationalization. So for email addresses and then for your domains, that's your website, you should be able to have UA acceptance, universal acceptance, compliance in both of them. So you know that initially for all this while, you have mostly used .com, .org, .net. That has been the top level domains. That has been, and people rattle them off head. Okay, people rattle them off head. They know all about .com, .org, .net, what. Basically 3 letters. That has been the trend for a long time. But now, these top level domains and the way they are developing is supposed to allow for over 1,200 new generic. So now we have others like lending, photography, so many other names are coming up, not just the 3-letter ones that are generic. So if somebody wants to do, for instance, search for photography, things in photography, they can do the .photography thing and search within that community for photographs. There's even, I think, the pharmacy where you can do that and search for communities within the pharmaceutical industry. So you don't need to do company again. You don't need to do .org again. You don't need to do the .net again. There are other top level domains that are coming up. And some of them are not in English. See these ones? They are not in English. They are not in the normal scripts that we know, the ASCII characters. They are different. So others that are in different or different languages or scripts. This one is in Chinese. This one is in Arabic. Must also be understood and be acceptable within networks, because we are talking about internationalization. It's no more localized. We are talking about going on to the international or global level. So we need to have these things accepted within. The next round of the generic ones will continue to expand the domain name ecosystem and give new opportunities to the next billion people waiting to access through other language apart from the ones that we know. So now we are forward thinking. We are not trying to solve problems for today. We are thinking ahead of time. And we want to accommodate any other person who would want to use or make use of the internet. Before 2009, these were the ones we knew, popular ones. .com, .org, .aero, .mobi, .info, .edu, .net, .asia, .travel. These are some of the examples of the ones that we knew. Now, the new ones that are coming up that we need to accommodate. And you see, it is understandable that we accommodate them because you realize Chinese, for instance, is the most spoken language. So we can't, I was sitting behind somebody, we were traveling and he was using Chinese. He was using this chat. I don't know how many characters the Chinese language has. Does anybody know how many characters the Chinese language have? We have 26 for our alphabets. You know how many they have? You know how many characters the Ethiopian language has? They say they have over 200 and something. We have 26 and we struggle with the 26. So if somebody has 200 and something characters, and sometimes the position of the character even changes how it is written. Okay, so these are things that we need to consider. So from 2009 onwards, we were having these ones here coming on board. Now, beyond 2012, we are even having more. Now the .bank, .bar, .car, all these ones. You see, they are all coming up now. And it will keep expanding. It will keep expanding as people fine-tune the area to which they want to create a domain for. So as we want to be forward-looking, we want to make sure that our systems are also coming on board and able to assess all these things that we are seeing. Are they seeing the screen online? Okay. So initially, again, also on email addresses were not available in the local language scripts. So in Ghana, I don't know who has their email address in the local language or have characters for Ghana, Eve, Dagbon, Akan, whichever. I don't know how many of us have email addresses that contain those characters. Do we even use them? You see, that's the problem I have with the current generation. They have decided not to learn about their language. But we don't use them. But now these are becoming crucial that people begin to use because that is the only way they can access and make some use of the things that the benefits that the internet brings to people. Okay, we need to accommodate them so they can also have access. So that is the other component of it that we call the email address internationalization. I talk about it, the EAI. It addresses the limitations inherent with the internet ecosystem, the mailing system, and allows people using local scripts to be able to have access to email addresses and be able to communicate using that. Internationalized email addresses are not related to the text in the body of the email. It is just a way to allow them to connect from one person to another person. So the email address is what we are concerned here with, not what you put in your text. The email address to allow you to be able to reach another person, even though you are writing that in a localized script or language. That's what we are interested in. Whatever else you want to put in the body of your conversation, we are not interested. We are only interested in connecting you with other people on the internet. That is what the EAI is about, email address internationalization. You know Tim Berners-Lee, Every IT person should know the person. If I call him the father of internet, then it says that the web does not just connect machines, it connects people. So that should also stick in the back of our heads. The web or internet is not just to connect one piece to another piece. It is supposed to connect people. Okay, so we can communicate with somebody. Now, because of WhatsApp, we can do a call, video call, and talk to somebody who is so many miles away from you. And you can communicate, do business, and within minutes, you have finished your business. Now, you don't need to travel from one point to another point. So if you're not using WhatsApp and you want to use other protocols, you should be able to get to that also and be able to use it. Unfortunately, this map is not showing very well. Let me see if I can go. This one is better. So if I point out to this one here, what do you think the EG would stand for? That's a country code, step level domain. Okay. So straight away, if you look at the web address or the email address of somebody, you can see which country the person is coming from, isn't it? If I look around again and I look at somebody here, TN will tell me where is Tunisia. See how it is like. So this is how we are moving forward with the universal acceptance, compliance in systems, not just on just websites, but in systems within the institution. Let me just give an example. If the institution has a learning management system, okay, and wants everybody within the institution to be able to access, they normally will give you a password and a username, isn't it? But do you realize that most of the institutions would also include in your username your institutional link? So your domain name is in the username. So a student name at the institution.edu.gh or something like that. Now, wherever you are, even outside of the institution network, that name there, that link there allows you to directly access the information because the systems would recognize immediately that you are coming from where? From that institution. But now if you don't write that same email address in the English language and you want to use a local language, would it accept it? It will not, because it's not compliant. So if I want to be, let me say, I just want to be experimental, and instead of writing my institutional email address as a way to access the systems within the house, I go online and I go to translate.google.org. Then I write my name and say, give it to me in Hindi language or Sanskrit. That's the language, I think, yeah. Or in the Mandarin language or Korean. And then I copy that and then I go and paste in my systems to try to access my office mails. And it doesn't allow me to do that. Then my system is not universally acceptance compliant. It's not universal acceptance compliant. You get my point? So these are the things that you need to think about now. If a student comes from China to, for instance, AAU, and the person is now learning the language, the English language, so he's still comfortable with the Chinese scripts. Okay. And so instead of writing what he's trying to learn in English and he writes it in Chinese language, will your system be able to allow that new student from China to access the things he's able to access? These are things you need to think about because you are internationalizing your schools, your institutions. You want people from other countries to come in there. If somebody comes from the Swahili language or the Xhosa language and wants to use that, how would they be able to accept or enter your system? So these are the things we are looking at. These are the top level domains for the generic ones that we have spoken about, the .com, .net. These are other ways that people are writing them now. The .com, .net, .edu, the generic ones, .photograph, .africa. Now we have .africa. Do you realize you have .africa now? These are other ways that people are going to write them. So how would these various scripts be interpreted within the systems and help them to, this is Russian, I guess. This is Russian, eh? The others, I don't know where all these other ones are coming from. So that is what we are talking about now. All this must be acceptable. All this must be acceptable within your systems. Okay, within your systems, and your system must be able to interpret them and point them to the right sources so that users can make use of these ones, more of them. We are in interesting times. All right, so the checks used by many software applications to validate domain names and email addresses remain outdated. That's one of the challenges we have. That is why we say they are not universal acceptance compliant. People have developed, they keep developing applications, but they don't think about this aspect of their usage and how people can access their platforms. So when people are designing programs now, we are urging that they take note of these challenges and make sure the systems you are developing, the apps that you are developing, if it's a mobile app or whatever you want to develop, make sure you are thinking about not just your immediate users. If you want to think about globally, about other people outside your sphere who would make use of these systems, begin to think about universal acceptance compliance for your systems. In addition, not all online portals are primed or are made available for opening of a user account with a related email address. So this leaves a lot of people unable to navigate internet using their language and online identity. This is also another challenge we are looking at. Technical compliance best practice, UA. If you use it, it solves these issues and ensures that all valid domain names and email addresses are available and they can help people who are using internet-enabled applications to get to do what the things they need to do. All right, so now this site, for instance, I spoke about this. You go to a lot of sites and they say, send us information. And then when you click, these things pop up. Do you see them? Have you been to a site and we have come to a point at this where we say we are trying to contact managers of the sites, and then they say, okay, send a mail here. You click and it pops up and you begin to write. If this is how I can write in Arabic and your system is not compliant, can I get back to you? Can I get to you for extra information? It's not possible to do that. So simple things that we have been ignoring for a long time now. Now, internationalization requires that we begin to think beyond our local sphere, beyond our comfort zones, and begin to ensure that we are developing systems or we are upgrading our systems. If we can develop new ones, we are upgrading them to become UA compliant. Okay. ASCII keys allows up to 256 characters, 256 characters. So there's a limitation. I spoke about the Ethiopian language that they say they have over 206 characters. 206 characters. So if you're going to have lowercase and uppercase, that doubles it at least. You see the point? And this can only handle up to 256. So where will we get the other ones that we haven't spoken about? It limits, for example, it limits our usage of characters for other languages. So that is where the Unicode comes in, because the Unicode allows you to expand to over 1 million characters. So all the other language characters that we can't even think about now would have some accommodations to be able to help with that. So you see them, .sky, .engineering, I can't read this one. But others too, .site, you see all these characters, and people can write it like this. They can write in different combinations. So whichever combinations they put it together, the system must still be able to interpret and send it to wherever it is. So we say that ASCII is A to Z in caps, A to Z, and then the digits 0 to 9, then the special characters, comma, colon, this other one. But it's limited, it's so limited. But Unicode supports of global languages and scripts because of their ability to accommodate that much characters in the combinations. So we prefer that people now begin to look at using this one in their coding instead of that And there are ways to store your information also either using this or using that. There are ways to transfer them. We will talk about them sometime along the line. You don't want to do a lot of technical things. You do that in the, what's it called, the workshop. Yeah. So let's go, and now everybody take, did we show the yeah, Wi-Fi code? Did we show it? We're able to pick it up. Okay, please, let's do a little experiment. To log on to our network, and then you go to this site. Let's first look at the username and the. So you will see the SSID as AAU NetApp. The SSID is AAU. Any of them? Any of them? Yes, this is the same. There are two. We are broadcasting on two frequencies, 2.4 or 5. So the username is AAU BM, and then password is AAU. Go online. When you have all finished, I'll go back to that page. I want you to test to see whether your institutional address is UA compliant. Your institution has a website, isn't it? So use your institutional website first, and let's see whether you are all compliant. If you are not, that's the next thing I want you to do, so that when you come back for the workshop, I want to see what has been done. Okay, so the address is at the top there, uasg.tech/EAI. So your institutional email, those who do not have institutional emails, you can just forget. I don't want the Gmail, I don't want the Yahoo. It should be the institutional email. So if you have been given an institutional address, email address, your username. I want to see the first person who comes out, and let's see whether, yeah, the email address is here at the top here. Eugene supported. Okay. University of Ghana, congratulations. AIT supported. Okay, good. ATU, GIMPA.
Yeah, I supported. Is supported. What do you mean?
Any more? Any more? This question is compliant. Okay. and begin to ensure that we are developing systems or we are upgrading our systems. If we can develop new ones, we are upgrading them to become UA compliant. Okay. ASCII keys allows up to 256 characters, 256 characters. So there's a limitation. I spoke about the Ethiopian language that they say they have over 206 characters. 206 characters. So if you're going to have lowercase and uppercase, that doubles it at least. You see the point? And this can only handle up to 256. So where will we get the other ones that we haven't spoken about? It limits it, for example, it limits our usage of characters for other languages. So that is where the Unicode comes in, because the Unicode allows you to expand to over 1 million characters. So all the other language characters that we can't even think about now would have some accommodations to be able to help with that. So you see them, .sky, .engineering, I can't read this one. But others too, .site, you see all these characters, and people can write it like this. They can write in different combinations. So whichever combinations they put it together, the system must still be able to interpret and send it to wherever it is. So we say that ASCII is A to Z in caps, A to Z, and then the digits 0 to 9, then the special characters, comma, colon, this other one. But it's limited, it's so limited. But Unicode supports of global languages and scripts because of their ability to accommodate that much characters in the combinations. So we prefer that people now begin to look at using this one in their coding instead of that. And there are ways to store your information also either using this or using that. There are ways to transfer them. We will talk about them sometime along the line. They don't want to do a lot of technical things. You do that in the, what they call the workshop. Yeah. So let's go, and now everybody take. Did we show the Wi-Fi code? Did we show it? We're able to pick it up. Okay, please. Let's do a little experiment. So to log on to our network, and then you go to this site. Let's first look at the username and the. So you will see the SSID as AAU NetApp. The SSID is AAU. Any of them. Yes, this is the same. There are two. We are broadcasting on two frequencies, 2.4 or 5. So the username is AAUBM, and then password is AAU. Go online. When you have all finished, I'll go back to that page. I want you to test to see whether your institutional address is UA compliant. Your institution has a website, isn't it? So use the institutional website first, and let's see whether you are all compliant. If you are not, that's the next thing I want you to do, so that when you come back for the workshop, I want to see what has been done. Okay, so the address is at the top there, uasg.tech/EAI. So your institutional email. Those who do not have institutional emails, you can just forget. I don't want the Gmail. I don't want the Yahoo. It should be the institutional email. So if you have been any more, this question is compliant. Okay. You know why I'm doing this? Some of my bosses will have to leave, eh? So we will just pause briefly. We'll take a group picture here, and then they can leave, okay? So let's move quickly forward here. Let's stand, we have 3 levels. Let's stand on the 3 levels. Let's take a picture. Please take your t-shirts and put it in front of you because you post online. So if you can wear it, just take it out and put it in front of you so they can see. Because you are going to do this also as a promotion. Requirements. And the presentations will be shared with you. We took your email addresses. So when you go back and you are doing, either you are doing your service or you are developing a system, if somebody contracts you to develop a platform for them, and you are doing that for the sake of the person's international audience, make sure you are thinking about how to put this in goal. So the goal and impact of today's launch is to make sure all valid domain names and email addresses work in all software applications. We want to promote consumer choice. How do we do that? How do we promote consumer choice and improve competition and provide broader access to all users? How are we going to do that? How do we benefit from these ones when we are UA compliant? Now let us do a conversation. How do we achieve the 3 things that are there? I want contributions from others. We want to promote consumer choice. How do we do that if we are UA compliant? If I'm selling cars, Toyota is from Japan, and I want to reach the American audience. If all my staff, those sitting in the marketing department, can't speak English, how would consumers in US be able to get to us and to understand what we are selling? If we are not UA compliant, you see that will not be possible. So if you are UA compliant, you allow other consumers to have access to multiple choices. They understand because their system supports them to do comparison of services that are provided. So irrespective of whether the person can speak your language or not speak your language, the person is still able to access your sites. It helps them to have choices, either to continue to stay within my language and use my language and my local scripts, or to go and learn a new language so that I can access the internet. It doesn't matter because even my local scripts will be acceptable. In competition, if we improve the competition, so we want to quickly finish before 12, by 12, we go for lunch and then we disperse. Okay. Actually, we won't go for lunch because it's packed lunch. So you can take it and you can disappear. I hope that is fine. Good. Right. So you improve your competitiveness if you allow your systems to be UA compliant. In fact, it puts you ahead of the competition. You get my point? It puts you ahead of the competition. It provides your users a broader access to the things they can get. And then for you yourself, you are giving a broader access to a larger group of the market or the people you want to reach to be able to sell your products to. So we are talking about why it matters and all of it has been listed there. Support a diverse and multilingual internet. It enables greater competition, it enables innovation, allows users to make a choice. It creates or expands your business opportunities for you. Because irrespective of where the person is searching from, irrespective of whatever script he's using or language, the person is able to still get to understand what you have on your systems. It offers career advantages for developers and system administrators. And most of you here are going to be those people. But that is why we are asking that it becomes a course content for the ICT department. Because for people who are developing, we have seen why it's necessary for you to have this as part of your development ethics now. As part of your application development ethics, you must be thinking about this. Nobody's going to force you, but if you include it, it's an advantage for you yourself. Because whoever you develop a system for would get to understand the benefits of what you included, even without them asking you. So it is good that people begin to do that. And as system developers and administrators, please be thinking about this. For government and policymakers, we want to also reach out to them. For instance, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we want to promote the trade from Ghana, isn't it? The Ministry of Agric, they want to promote the things they are doing. How are their systems or websites compliant? Would it allow people who are not from Ghana to come in and search for information, get the information they need to also develop their partnership documents? These are things that we want to reach out to the policymakers. We will do that. So we'll do a launch of the UA in Ghana. And then afterwards, we will do the workshop. So there are going to be 2 events more. The launch of the UA in Ghana. And that's one, the Ministry of Communication, the Minister for Education, Minister for Information would all have to be part of that. The government will have to take a decision to ensure that all the governmental systems and applications and whatever are UA compliant. We want that to start with the government. When it comes to the institutions, they will do the teaching and they will do all that things to support. Now, UA basically, again, as a summary, it supports more than 5 billion active users. And we are expecting 1 billion more in a few years to come online. Although in Africa, we saw where we were when we took a look at the users for internet, but we are improving. Internet penetration is going up. So we expect a more people, part of the people using it. When we come online, we want to be people who have structured our system, said whichever language they use will become acceptable. And the other thing that we also require is that we begin to also write codes. Okay, now you are going beyond the UA. We begin to write codes using our local scripts. The O's, the S. You see where we are going. Because if the applications must understand and use them, they must be also recognized within our coding systems and stuff like that. And so if you code in Ga or Tree, the system must be able to understand what you are saying. Okay, so these are challenges I'm just posing to you. What about writing an app in a local language? Or teaching people to write scripts or applications in local language? So think about them, okay? All right, at least I know somebody has written an app in one of the local languages. They say they have, I think I was reading from Tech also, this or Tech also, that 2 students have, either Tech or Ashasi, that they have used local languages to write an application, to build an application. And the application is, I'll search for it. When I'm searching, I'm sending you the presentation, I'll send to you also if I get that information. Okay, so the majority of the world does not speak English. We saw the statistics. They don't speak English as their first language. Only 1/3 of the world population. And we are not even up to 1/3 because Chinese is the first one, and then followed by Spanish. So English is the 3rd, yes. but not a third of the population. English is a third of the world population. This is the English that we know, or the Latin alphabets. There are other people who prefer to read. I spoke to you about the Chinese person I was sitting behind. He was communicating, but he was writing with his hand, touch screen. So he write the character, then he select from the that are similar. So instead of typing, because the number of characters they have in the Chinese language cannot sit on their touchpad. You get the point? The number of characters cannot sit on the phone screen. That's the small one that is there. So now he has to select. So he writes with his hand, then he selects the one that is correct. And I told you there are characters that are the same character, but it changes based on the position in the sentence or in the word. Okay, so we have things like that. So by being UA ready, there are important economic and social benefits for people who are multilingual and who are using the internet. It increases the ability to access and connect to e-commerce, local communities, and government platforms. So it also allows them to embrace cultural traditions through the use of their languages, as indicated by the OECD document. So there are things that we need to think about. So if you make your applications UA ready, what it means is that one, it will support and allow the user to input characters from their local script into a text field. We saw the one in the email address. You remember that has the Arabic imprint. So if you are, it will accept, if your systems are ready, it should accept the user and allow the user to input whichever character is known to them, not just the Latin ones that we know. And then it will validate that these are characters that are recognizable and are valid and can be used to communicate. Then the next thing it does is that it processes using these same characters that are probably not known to you, but understandable to them. It processes them, and then it helps the database to store the information. It can store the information in the Unicode form in that same language script. But when you create, it will transfer or translate it into the language that you understand. So you understand what you say. And then when you send a feedback to the person who is communicating with you, the person gets to understand it in still that local language that is comfortable for him, that he has started the communication with. So that's how the system works throughout. And then when the display is fetched from the database, yes, that's what I just spoke about. The display is shown correctly to the person, whichever way it is. So ICANN, in order to achieve this, has created a group that is called the ICANN Steering, the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, the UASG. The site that you went to do a compliance check is that site managed by the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. We are actively promoting the universal acceptance, and they are also financially supporting the steering group. They work together to achieve this one, organizing outreach to raise awareness, conducting detailed studies to identify technical gaps. They are determining solutions to address the technical gaps. They are submitting bug reports for systems that have been developed and are trying to be UA compliant, but have the bugs in them. They identify them, they find solutions to them, and then they promote that. They continue to develop and conduct technical training on the solutions for supporting UA readiness. That's one of the workshops we are going to be having in 2 weeks from now. There's more information about them. Let me go to the site, and I'll give you the presentations. So the sites that are there, you can go in there, and then you check for more information. So what or who can help achieve UA readiness? The lists are plenty. I'm sure here you can get the enablers, you can get the developers, you can get the software and service providers as well. System administrators for email for institutions. All of you, you can get some of them here. And even some people who are going to be policymakers in the future, you can get you here now. So all of you can variously do the things that have been listed against you here. You can fall, I'm sure everyone here would fall into one of these categories, either as a technology enabler, as a developer, software service provider, as a government policymaker, or as somebody in academia or the universities. So the university especially, we are still pushing to have this as part of the programs they offer for IT related courses. Okay. For business rules, I won't want to go through all this. These are things you can do. But me, my message that I want to keep in your head, like Madam said, is that we want to understand that we must be UA compliant and allow other people who are not using the Latin language that we know to be able to access and use the internet and communicate on the internet. For businesses, these are things that they can do to promote universal acceptance. And again, like I said, we would be sharing the scripts, the presentation. So I will not talk a lot about most of them, but when you have them, please go through. You can see how you can organize your business. In this case, your institution to be able to achieve universal acceptance compliance. Internal assessments of your systems, update your systems if they are not UA ready. Encourage your collaborators to participate in the things you are doing. Create more awareness. That is what we are more interested in now. Create more awareness with partner organizations and companies. So as you go out, I said it earlier, please be advocates for UA. Let people understand what it means. I'm sure by now everybody understands what it means. So when you go out, talk about it to your classmates who were not here, who were not able to come with you here. Talk about it. To those who are lecturing, please make sure you can, we are not asking you to radically change your curricula, but if you can be incorporated in some of the courses that you are running, that will be good for us. Make our systems more compliant and our students really compatible when they are going out. Okay, that's the role of the government. The requirements for the government are stated here. This is a link. So when you get there, you will see that link. For those who will become politicians and policymakers, decision makers in the future, or those who are thinking about it, civil society, this is what the things we can do. Encourage our communities to attend local and regional UA-related events like we have done today. Make your own systems UA ready for broader digital inclusion. Promote research and inclusion and access that enforces or reinforces the principles of universal acceptance. Create universal acceptance with every person that you engage, every business that you engage, every individual that you engage. Please talk about the opportunities that UA would provide for them, either as businesses or as institutions. Talk about that. The institutions, the first thing you want them to do is to improve on their email addresses. Those of you who searched and they realize that you are compliant, that's great, that's wonderful. Those who are not, please begin conversations about getting to that level of compliance. If you are working or you are here and your institution is already compliant, and you have the opportunity to visit another institution, if you are doing galamsey, and you understand what I mean, you are doing galamsey or part-time lecturing with other institutions, and you go there, can you do the same? Can you check with them? Can you check to see whether their systems or their email addresses are all UA compliant? If it is not UA compliant, please, can you help them? Can you talk about it? If they want support, AAU and ICANN will provide us support, technical support to help them get their systems to that level. Okay, so we are available to do that. Okay, update your curricula to include some form of instructional instructions or teaching in the UA area. Train faculty and students to adapt to UA practices in their software development. We already spoke about that. For those who are software systems developers, software developers, web app developers, please just make sure the systems you are building, you are trying to incorporate this one. Create more awareness within your institutions. Create it, help it to solve technical challenges that local companies are facing. So now when somebody says, build a site for me, don't just quickly put your HTML or whatever, CSS codes or JS Node or React or whatever software application you are using. Don't just quickly put a few things together and then go and hand over to the person and say, I have completed your website. This is it. This is how it operates. Make sure it is also UA compliant. As a technical community, what will be your role? Carry out training and education activities that allow software developers and project managers to address the issues relating to universal acceptance. Test and address UA related issues in your own products and services. Make sure they are all working. If there are bugs related to any UA activity you are doing within your systems, please reach out for help. If you cannot solve it, reach out for help. AAU is there, ICANN is there. I'll give you that. They have the addresses there. You can reach out to them. They will get you a technical person to help you go through the things you need to do to make your systems compliant and for your own advantage. Oh, we have a lot of time. We are going to end very soon so that people can ask questions. And the questions can come from both here and online, because the others are also joining us online. So for people who are managing domains, I've spoken about domains a lot today. People who are managing domains, or if somebody else is hosting your domain for you, get to them and see whether their systems support UA compliance. AAU, our domain is hosted by Network Solutions. So AAU.org is not sitting here. AAU.org is managed by another company, a domain name service provider. So we ask the service provider, are your systems UA compliant? So that when I mention the number and you typed, you go to AAU.org, remember. Now, if somebody types the same numbers, not in the number, the numeral system that we know, but types the same numbers in Japanese characters, will it be able to take us to the same site? You see the point? The domain name would point that person to AAU. So if the domain service provider is not UA compliant, it means any other person who is not using the English language scripts will not be able to get to AAU. You understand me now? So because a different person is managing our domain for us, we need to make sure that person has systems that are UA compliant. Otherwise, we will be the ones who are losing at the end. Are you okay with that? So if you are not the one hosting your domain and somebody else is providing that service for you, please check with that person and make sure the person's systems are UA compliant. Then there are service providers. Outlook is one service provider. There are those who are using Gmail. For Gmail, if they even give you the institutional one, that one, they are UA compliant. But if a different service provider is giving you email services, AAU is AAU.org, all right, but it is provided by Outlook. So we make sure Outlook is also UA compliant. Otherwise, it means that other people who want to reach our mailing system cannot get us information. They cannot write to us by email. They cannot communicate to us. So we also make sure that the service provider for mail services are also what? UA compliant. Are you okay with that also? Okay. So there are a lot of ways we have to ensure that our systems are compliant. So these are things that ICANN is currently doing. We know ICANN now. We have mentioned their name several times. Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. These are the things they are doing. They are helping to update their own software systems to support all valid names. They themselves, they see they are doing work so that their systems can support all these other scripts from different languages. And they are looking at the country code top-level domains. They are looking at the generic ones, and they are looking at what they call the label generation rules to allow inclusion of more scripts within the systems, inclusion of more scripts. Okay, so they are also supporting communities to raise awareness, expand policies and processes under development. And they are looking even now at the next generation for generic top-level domains. They haven't even finished the work they have now, but they are being very forward-looking, trying to see what could happen in the future. And they are developing tools also to support the the bold generation rules. So these are things that we can do, but there are two things that I want to talk to you about. Okay, these are two areas I want you to look at. You see some of the scripts I jump in. I want us to finish quickly so we can have conversation. ICANN Fellowship. Go and read about it and apply if you are interested. Okay. The goal of the fellowship is to strengthen the diversity of the multi-stakeholder model of fostering opportunities for individuals from undeserved and underrepresented communities to become active participants in the ICANN community. Remember, I talked about developing applications using our local languages. We are highly high levels of underrepresentation. So how can we as a country begin to also show the use of our scripts on the internet and get people to search using the local languages and the local scripts that we have and still be able to get information? That's a huge project, isn't it? But if you don't start now, who will start for us? Are you waiting for the 20th generation from now to start doing that? So there must be a starting point. So the fellowship, you can apply and get involved in that one. And then the other one is to apply to become a member of the ICANN Next Gen. Individuals who are interested in becoming actively engaged in their regional communities and in shaping the future of the global internet policy. So either the ICANN Next Gen or the ICANN Fellowship, it's there. And get the slides, go in there and see if you are interested in supporting any of them and engage them. It's a new area. It's an area that will give you more opportunities to grow. Okay. All right. So I would want to end at this point. The other things that we can do, recommendations that can be looked at. Easiest ways to ensure all valid domain names are accepted. These are all recommendations, how to store your data and stuff like that. That makes it's also UA compliant. Processes, how to process your applications or your applications to run their processes and still be UA compliant. How you display your scripts, whether it's in Arabic or in language P or Ga or Ewe or whichever language, how you're able to have it translated so that whoever is looking at the screen is seeing the language that the person understands and inputted. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Now, time for questions. Please don't ask me questions, add contributions. Any questions? You are welcome to ask questions. If you ask me a question, I'll ask you to go and do research. That is me. Anyway, that's just by the way. So questions and answers, Q&A time, whether online, here physically. All right.
There's a hand online.
Okay, so the person can go ahead. Raymond, please go ahead with your question.
Hi, good morning. My name is Raymond Mamata. I'm here in Accra, and I am an ICANN fellow, and I'm also the vice chair of the communication working group of UA. I would like to add
Very much
to what
for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I'm honored to have you here.
Thank you. So I'd like to mention that UA has several working groups and some other components, such as the communication working group, the EAI working group, and many others. And we also have a general mailing list. So I will encourage us to join the general mailing list and make contributions to it, and also join the various working groups depending on your skill set. So that's what I want to add. So I'll be dropping the link once again in the chat box for the mailing list and the working group for people to join. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So when we get the link, we will share here for those of you who are here so you can see. But for those who are online, I think when he shares the link in the chat, you would be able to see the link. Thank you very much. Still more hands.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentation. With respect to incorporating in curriculum, I believe if you can have a discussion with GTech, since they are just your neighbors, and then they do or they deployment to normally go around to review these things. Most of the ITCS schools do web tech, they do web development and what have you. It will be a very simple way to incorporate this into those topical areas. So it could start from there, because once curriculums have been approved and then the team going around has a document on UA in the GTech portfolio, it makes life really easy and easy to get into the universities. I think that is one of the key things, if you've not thought of, you can think of doing. It solves a lot of we'll not do, we are not ready to do, when are we going to implement it? It solves a lot of things. So you may have to maybe engage your immediate neighbors and see how best they can come in to inform curriculum change in this direction, especially within the web tech, web development, and all the related courses that come with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's something we have overlooked actually, because it's one of the things we should do with the, although we are inviting the Minister for Education, I think we have to invite Professor Saleputu and the GTech team, because it's not just for the universities. Our mandate is with the universities, but we think that the other institutions as well, the tertiary level institutions, teacher training, the nursing training institutions, colleges of education, yeah, all of them should have this also as well. So please put that in the list that you have. So thank you very much for the reminder, the recommendation. We are still waiting for comments. Otherwise, we won't go for lunch. So we are not even having lunch.
Okay, for me, I think you should also invite the Institute of Languages, because for Ghana, per se, there are many words in English. We don't know their keywords, like the atom.
Actually, you see, we invited somebody from the Department of Languages in Legon. It's unfortunate that they couldn't come, because it also requires that we have people who are interested in helping retain our language or languages and the scripts in which they are written. So it's some sort of engagement that we need to have with them as well. So it's a good reminder. Thank you very much. I think for the subsequent, the two other meetings, which are the dates? 12th and 13th. No, 13th and 14th. 13th and 14th April, just after the Easter break. So just be alert. We will send out the invitations to the institutions to promote, to come with people who are going to help implement these things. Okay. So thank you very much. We are engaging them already. We wanted them to come, but they couldn't come. That's unfortunate, but we will continue to engage them. And so, like I said, please keep thinking, especially the students, keep thinking about how we would incorporate our local scripts and local languages in the things that we are doing. So waiting for so that is why I said they should join he said he was going to be share a mailing list. There are a lot of working groups, and I'm sure ICANN has funding. They have money. So some of these things, if you are in a working group and you come up with the idea, I'm sure they will have a way of supporting. There certainly will be funding from ICANN to support some of these things. I'm not trying to push them into a corner, but for instance, this workshop is basically funded by them. This workshop is funded by ICANN. So there will definitely be a way to support if you come up with an idea, which is good.
From what we learned today, the UA supports the usage of multiple languages. So it may sound weird though, but I want to know whether you can use different languages simultaneously.
You didn't see some of these things that I showed. There was a combination of one email address, for instance, that had parts of a different language and part of the normal language that we have, characters that we know. You know, they call these characters glyph, GLYPH. And there's a technical presentation. I didn't want to do that one. I wanted to do this awareness one. There are some scripts, I was telling you, the way they appear, if you are at the beginning of the sentence, is different from the way they appear when they are in the middle of the sentence, and the way they appear when they are at the end of the same word, the same character at the end of a word. This is a different one. So one character can appear 4 different ways by the same character. And so if you do that, and then you're adding, let me go back to the script. I think I can get some of them to some samples to show. You see this one? It's a combination of 2 different language scripts. You get my point? It allows that this one, for instance, is also combining 2 different, this is in a different language. So UE allows that because all those characters are understood by the systems. Once the system is UE compliant, it understands them whichever way they are coming from. So what it means is that we need to include more support for this one. You see this group, the work they are doing here. Generational rules for multiple scripts. You need to help them because you now need to include more scripts. The ones that have not been captured, those that are underrepresented. You need to help. So if you are in a working group like that, you are going to be more useful if you have a lab for looking for obscure is the word, obscured scripts that are not popular within the internet space and including them within what can be done. So we have more work to do.
Sorry, thank you very much. My question is relating to, this is something international, but it's a comment or a question relating to Ghana. You see, Ghana, we have a lot of local languages. And when you were delivering, you said something about users. The user is very important. So we have to create something which will make it easier for them to use it. Now, if we come to Ghana here, the local languages, you realize we can speak it, we can write it. So even if we are targeting, the main reason for this is targeting the local people. Now the issue is the elites, or let me say the educated, we have the formal language, which is the English. And the educated people, someone can speak Ga, but might not be able to write in Ga or the other languages. So how is it going to benefit the local people?
The language, you are uneducated. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. But you see, it's wrong because what it will lead to eventually is that our language will die off. That's what it means. So when the education curricula requires that somebody does a language, we tend to look down on them. But people who are doing newscasting in the local languages, they must be able to read at the minimum level and write the local language. It is not always right that they try to do simultaneous or interpretation whilst they are reading the news in English. They are looking at it in English and trying to read it or say it in local language. It is not right, because you are supposed to also document this and keep them. Your news scripts must be documented and stored. So if you cannot write in the local language you are speaking to people, then you are useless. You see, so that is something we critically need to look at. So when he said we should involve the language people, you see how right it is. But you'll be surprised at the number of people who can read the local language in Ghana. It's just a surprise. You'll be shocked to see people at top level who can read their local language. A lot of the next gen people, the Gen Z people, the Gen Z people, they are the ones who have a problem. Even the language that they say they are good at writing, the English language. If they write for you now, you have to get a packet of paracetamol and sit down put it beside you as you try to. But that's on the lighter side. But you see, that's the reason why we need to do that, because there are still people who are in the local communities who can't read English, but they can read their language. That's a surprise. There are people who are in the rural areas who cannot read English, but they can read their local languages. In Ghana. And then in the other countries, if you go to South Africa, for instance, where they are speaking like 13 different languages in their parliament, you know what they call them the rainbow country. If you go to their parliament, for instance, they are speaking like 13 different languages that are all acceptable within the parliament. So somebody gets up and is speaking his language, you have to learn, understand. Then my boss, the one who was sitting here, she's my boss, my direct boss. She's a Zimbabwean. She speaks some like 7 other languages. Xhosa, Swahili, Tswana, so many. But that is how those who are down, that's how they operate. And so all these languages, and she can read and she can write some of them. So for her, she really understands how this would be an advantage for them. You see, Swahili is spoken all the way from down south to as far as even Central Africa and the Congos. So it's a common language down that side. It is up to this western side where we have a lot of Nigeria. Remember that song? Every kilometer means another language. Have you heard that song? Edna Ogoli. It says in Nigeria, every kilometer means another language. So you can see how it's going to play out if you have each of them in their local languages trying to develop their systems, and that is going to be online, and the systems that we have are not UA compliant. There will always be the fight because people cannot access your products. You cannot make use of your services. You cannot support other users who want to be UA compliant.
Sorry, I have a suggestion towards that. What if there's a system that can translate speech to text so it can become user-friendly for maybe like farmers that are trying to get into the internet and go abroad? Do you understand? Yeah. No, I'm talking about embedded in this, like already. Do you understand?
Our whole objective for UA is to expand access and help people to have access to services, products, or whatever. So anything that can help strengthen that goal or strengthen that objective, anything that can help us solve it better, you are welcome. And I'm sure people are already thinking about that. So now that you have brought it up, I'm giving you that project.
Thank you very much. I think she answered part of my question, but you mentioned undeserved communities. So my question is, how can we ensure that people with disabilities or the minority communities are not left behind in the push for universal acceptance in Africa?
Any suggestions? My suggestion is that I want somebody to answer the question.
So please, my suggestion is when seminars are held, it should be at those places, but not only in Accra, so that you can also have a fair idea of what is going on. Always seminars are held in Accra, and then so we take them to the remote areas so that they also know that this is what is going on. So this is what I can also say.
So, sorry to say, blind people also access the internet. So I think my sister's question is asking how we can help them to also get involved in this.
All right, so have you heard of the software called JAWS before? JAWS. Have you heard of JAWS before? What is it used for? I just want to be, JAWS is for the blind. It helps the blind to be able to read what's on their screens, and helps them to also be able to now transfer what they have onto the Braille. So whatever is on the screen, that is read to them. If you install JAWS, but now even it's not JAWS, a lot of the softwares, Microsoft 365, it can read the screen to you. If it's an app, whatever, you load a Word document or PDF, it will read everything to you. So they are being helped. And there are softwares also that allows you to just speak and it will do the transcription. Even Office 365 does that now in Word. So I can dictate and it will type for me. You get my point? But that is just the surface. There are more to be able to, for instance, if I'm trying to code and I'm thinking in my head and I can read out the lines for my code. A blind person must be able to also do the same, whichever language the person is using. So we don't want to leave anybody behind. We don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to include everybody. So whichever way it is, there are people who are not really blind, but what do I call them? They're dyslexic or something. Dyslexia, who read and jump words and jump lines. They have difficulty reading characters. If I ask them to write 5, they write it 100 times and it will be the other way around. The people with those challenges. And all these ones will have to be helped to be able to come on board if the person is having that challenge and wants to be a developer. And you know how software, there's plenty permutations of symbols and characters that are unreadable. How do we bring them on board? These are all things we need to look at. So when he mentioned the working groups, I don't know whether he's that link. I don't know if you have seen what GH. He said he was pasting the link for the working groups on the chat. So let's check and see if it's on the chat that we can share. In the meantime, 3 more questions. Okay, and then please come forward a bit because you are directly behind the. Okay, so it's fine. Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead.
So I'm currently building a management app for businesses, small scale and medium scale businesses. And I know my target audience for our local businesses. So I want to ask, do I really need to make my app a UA compliant app since I already know my target audience?
Answer, please.
I think he is very lucky to be here to at least benefit from the discussion. the UA compliance will really boost his business and his app as he's thinking of, because now he'll have wider audience to assess whatever product he's bringing on board. I want to make a comment that this is a very good opportunity for us to really build our local language platforms. You know, one of our colleagues there mentioned that we can read or we cannot write. Others can write, somehow they also have issues. But this is the good opportunity for all of us to be able to take advantage and then showcase our languages. So now we are confident that there's a platform that is ready to accept all languages. So now the Ga language can be universal, the Twi can be universal, the Ewe can be universal. So if we take advantage as developers to begin this initiative, what it simply means that we are going to train the next generation who will not just like to speak English, but they will prefer the local language because now they know there's a system that is already compliant with whatever language they are going to speak. You know, these days it's difficult for you to learn the local language because 90% of your life communication will be in English. We are here, our mode of communication is English. If I was coming here and I know I'm going to communicate in Ga or Twi, I would make sure I learn the Ga or Twi. But we get to the platforms and we are all to communicate in English. So my interest to speak the local language is not really there. I'll try and learn it to pass my BEC. After BEC, do I have any obligation again? No obligation. My SHS life, my university life, till I retire, will all be in English. Of course, because, yeah, so, and after all, even if I try to do language at the university or at the other levels, to be either Spanish, French, or any other one, not anyone related to what we do here. But this is going to push the boundaries. So I'm really happy that government is coming in at this time. It means if policy is made around this, it will force all of us, not just those ones in the tech space or in the teaching environment, but every other person to know that if your child is not UA compliant, he can't survive online. If your child is not UA compliant, he cannot relate in a global space. Typically, we are all going to fall in line. So we really need to strategically position this very well and then make sure enough awareness is made. Everybody at every level, right from primary to university, we are all in sync and then we can get this thing done. Our local language will fall in place. And now we'll not have that difficulty where we see somebody is not speaking Twi or what have you. We'll all learn the local language because we can write our course in there, we can develop our apps in there, and then we'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When you were displaying the email addresses, I saw that each and every one of them had a character at in there. If we are saying UA compliant, is it possible that the at maybe will be removed? And if it is a Ga version of at is found, if it's Swahili. Oh, really? Okay. Then maybe I didn't observe well.
So yes. So we are looking at all of that, everything, every character. Okay, so I'll add more. They said yes. It will mean that when you have to now looking for language packs to include in that one. I get my point. You don't need to do a recoding. You are wrong with it. You don't need to do a recoding.
Okay, good morning. I came in a little bit behind of time, and I want to know, since I came in, all I heard was
universal acceptance based on domain name and email address. So I want to know whether can it cut across to other sectors or components of the internet? I said when I came in, all I had was domain name and then email address. Yes, so I want to know whether the universal acceptance cuts across other components of the internet, like the characters or paragraphs in the sound on the internet.
ICANN is Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So the names, the domain names, aau.org for AAU. Let's say University of Ghana, eugene.edu.gh. That's your domain. So those domain names and the numbers. So instead of writing eugene.edu.gh, I can write their IP address. That is the assigned number. Okay. So when we started off, we mentioned an IP address and they entered the IP address. It took them to aau.org. But you see, keeping the IP addresses is a difficult thing to do. If you have 10 sites and you have to keep their IP addresses, I'm sure if you sleep in your dreams, you'll be dreaming about numbers. So it is easier to remember the names. But what ICANN does is that it connects the numbers to the names so people can get to communicate with each other. So that is the basic level for all that we have discussed today. And you see, in doing that, we are using the Latin characters, A to Z, and then 0 to 9, which is known to us. And we, like you said, we grew up from kindergarten to the university using these characters. But somebody who is not here or was not born here, I won't even go far, was born in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is still, I think, the only country that is still using the Amharic language. The Amharic language is the language that they were using when Jesus was on earth. Says these people who are considered useless. They low life people. That was the language they were using, Amharic language. And you know, the Ethiopians have a link. They think they have a link to Israel. So they have their own scripts, and they say they have over 200 characters. We have just 26. So if you add the uppercase, the lowercase, that makes it 52, plus the numbers, plus the other special characters, the commas, the full-stops, the apostrophes. So let's say 70 in all. They have 200 and something plus. And each character, for instance, can get a different representation depending on the position in a word. So you see the difference now. So if somebody who does not understand this language, they are just here in Ethiopia and they don't use our character in their languages, but they teach them. So if you sit on their planes, you see them talking about their the chachung things. And on the airlines, they will speak the language first before they would speak the English language. And they insist on people learning that language. So if the person grows up understanding that language, Amharic language, and wants to write my email address, if he writes it in that language, if the system is universally compliant, that would still send a mail to me. But if the system is not, that mail will never get to me. Okay, so we are looking at the situation where the systems are able to communicate across the internet. So whether it is, it's not about the content. It's not about the content in your email. So if you are sending a mail to me, between the two of us, probably have a way of communicating. Okay, but how to get that mail to me is where our focus is on now. You get my point?
I will follow up on it. Follow up.
Okay.
So there's something called Morse code. So you can transfer or convert text audio to symbols, or let's say dots. So since you are talking about characters also, can the UA also support Morse code?
Well, I have to check and see. But you see, Morse code has been used for signals all along. So I'm sure there must be a way that Morse code, surely there must be something, but I have not checked to see. But I'm sure there must be a way where Morse code can also be either transcribed into standard code or something. There must be some application that allows that to happen. I get my point, because that was used to communicate from point to point over time before all these modern technologies came in.
The question asks about the at sign. You know, you have maybe Gmail dots. So dots over there is a symbol or a sign.
Yeah.
So
if another character or another language does not have the dot, but there's a representation of the dot, it should accept it. That's what we are talking about. I get my point. Irrespective of which script we are using, the standard symbols that we have, there must be some representation of that one, either the at or the dot or whichever. There must be a representation that is understood by whichever application you are using to send your message, your mail, or to visit a site. I get my point. So all that we are focusing on is that there should be the possibility of you to communicate with somebody else, either by mail or by their website, and there must not be any restrictions because the scripts you are using is not understood by that other party. Are you okay with that one? That is what all that we have said all this morning. And like Madam said, for nothing at all, we are going with the information that you must be able to communicate irrespective of what scripts you use.
And thank you so much, Mr. Beck. Please let's give a hand of applause to him for the presentation. So I think you asked a question about a research network. We have the African Research, Innovation and Development Networks. It's called AFRID. So we have for researchers or anybody who is into research in anything, if you've done any research or academic work that you would want to be published on there, you can put it out there. We actually have for students and the researchers, and we also have for institutions. So you can sign up onto the AFRID network. I think I'll let the technical guys share it on the platform, or we can send it out to you when we are sending our thank you notes and all the presentations that we had. I'm sure you would want to still read more on this universal acceptance. So we'll share all the materials with you. That is why we are asking for your email addresses, just in case you're wondering. But thank you guys so much for joining us today, accepting our invitation and participating in this wonderful celebrations. Before we go for lunch, I can see a few women here, and I'm so glad that you participated, because aside, we are talking about IT, and when it comes to STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we see a lot of men occupying that space. So I'm really happy and glad that we have women representing the technology aspect or the IT aspect of STEM and participating or having interest to even participate in this celebrations. So we'll share the link with you guys, and then you indicate your area that you would want to do your research or you want to publish your research on. Mr. Abed also mentioned that we have COREVIP coming up. COREVIP is the Conference of Rectors, Vice Chancellors, and Presidents, but it is open to anybody, anyone who is interested in African higher education. The theme for this year's event is advancing excellence in African higher education. So if you're a student and you've identified some gaps in our higher education space, you can indicate them. We called for abstracts to be submitted, and unfortunately the call has ended. So the abstracts are now being reviewed. And then when it's finalized, the authors of the papers that will be selected will be sponsored to attend the event. I don't know if any of you heard of it in a sense abstract. I think a woman came to me, mentioned to me that she submitted the abstract. So hopefully if she gets the opportunity to be selected, she'll be sponsored to attend the event. So I'm just using this as an opportunity to also encourage you to always visit our blog and our website. The website is www.aau.org and our blog is aau.blog. So I would want about 5 people to briefly share with me what they learned from this session. For me, I learned that the universal acceptance is basically allowing, or is a platform that allows us to use characters even in different languages to still access a platform. Especially the ladies, I would want them to share what they learned with me before we go. So I'll move to you. Kindly tell me what you learned from the session.
Thank you very much. I learned a lot and about languages and the use of it in tech. And for developers, either being software developers or any decision that you are making, it's important that you inculcate different languages, and that will sell your product out in the world than just limiting it to a specific language. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm bragging this what I've learned today. All right, so yeah, what I've learned today is UA ensures that everyone can access the internet space using their desired domain that's in their preferred languages.
It's more like mine. I want something different. Just one person and then we are out of here. Okay. So before we go, I would want us to take pictures per institutions or the organization that you are representing. So I know Accra Institute of Technology is represented here. I know Ghana Communication Technology University is represented here. Wisconsin University is also here. And then GIMPA, yes, GIMPA. So we'll take the photos in those groups. University of Ghana is also here. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So if you are a student or a lecturer from Accra Institute of Technology, you can come up here so that we'll take our photos. But thank you so much before that, thank you so much to our people online who are connecting with us from all the regions of Africa and beyond. It's been an insightful session and we are grateful that you had time. You stayed on throughout about 4 or 3 hours online to enjoy to join in the celebration. And thank you too for coming. We really appreciate you and we do hope to see you for the launch of